Here's a question a lot of people are afraid to say out loud. I'm 40. I haven't really saved anything for retirement. Is it already too late for me? If that thought has crossed your mind, take a breath. You're not behind some invisible finish line. You're not the only one. And more importantly, the answer to that question is yes. You can still retire comfortably starting at 40. Not by winning the lottery, not by finding some secret trick nobody else knows, but by understanding a few simple truths about time, money, and habits that almost nobody explains in plain language. That's what this video is about. No confusing terms, no spreadsheets, no pretending you need to be a finance expert. Just a clear, honest walkthrough of what starting at 40 actually looks like and exactly what to do about it. Before we go further, let's deal with one more thing that quietly makes this harder than it needs to be: comparison. Scrolling past someone your age posting about a paid-off house or an early retirement can make your own situation feel worse than it actually is. But you're only ever seeing a highlight reel, never the debt, the stress, or the help they may have had along the way. Comparing your real life to someone else's curated one is a losing game every time. The only comparison worth making is between where your finances stand today and where you want them to stand a year from now. Why 40 feels late, but isn't. Here's the thing about turning 40. It's usually the first time retirement stops being a distant, foggy idea and starts feeling like something with an actual date attached to it. Your parents might be aging. Your body reminds you it's not 25 anymore. And when you look around, it feels like everyone else has it figured out except you. But here's what most people don't realize. 40 isn't the end of your working life. It's usually the middle of it. If you retire around 65, that's 25 more years of earning. 25 years is not a small window. It's enough time to raise a child from birth all the way through college. It's enough time to completely change careers twice. It's enough time to pay off a house. 25 years of steady effort adds up to something real, even if the first 10 of your working years didn't go towards savings at all. The people who struggle most in retirement usually aren't the ones who started at 40. They're the ones who never started at all and kept pushing it off year after year until suddenly there was no time left. Starting at 40 with a real plan will always put you in a stronger position than starting at 50 with regret or never starting and hoping for the best. The simple math nobody explains well. Let's talk about how money actually grows without any confusing terms. Imagine you plant a small tree. In year 1, it barely looks different. In year 5, it's a little taller. But by year 20, that same tree is enormous because every year it didn't just grow, it grew on top of everything it had already grown before. Money set aside for retirement works the same way. When you save some money and it earns a little extra over time, that extra amount doesn't just sit there, it starts earning its own extra amount too. Year after year, your money is quietly making more money, and that new money is making even more. In the early years, this feels incredibly slow, almost pointless. But the longer it runs, the faster it builds, like that tree in year 20 compared to year 1. This is exactly why people say start early. It's not because starting late means failure. It's because that slow-growing tree needs time to become a big tree. The good news is, at 40, you still have 2 full decades or more for your money to grow this way. It won't grow as much as if you'd started at 25. Nobody can change that now. But it will still grow into something meaningful, especially if you start today instead of waiting another 5 years. A realistic example with simple numbers. Let's make this less abstract with an easy example. Say someone starting at 40 sets aside an amount equal to a few takeout meals each week. Nothing dramatic, just consistent. On its own, added up by hand, that money would turn into a modest pile after 25 years. But because it's sitting in a retirement account and quietly growing on top of itself year after year, the actual total ends up noticeably bigger than what was put in, often by a wide margin, without the person doing anything extra beyond staying consistent. Now compare that to someone who waits until 50 to start the exact same habit. They only get half the time for that growth to build, so even putting in the same weekly amount, they end up with meaningfully less by the time they retire. The habit is identical. The only difference is when it began. This is the entire argument for starting now instead of waiting for a better moment. There usually isn't one, and every year of waiting is a year that quiet growth doesn't get to happen. What comfortable actually means. Before going further, let's clear something up because this word comfortable gets misunderstood constantly. A comfortable retirement doesn't mean a mansion, a yacht, or never thinking about money again. For most regular people, comfortable means something much simpler. Your bills are covered, you're not panicking every time something breaks, you can see a doctor without stress, and you have a little room left over to actually enjoy your life. A dinner out, a visit to see family, a hobby you love. That version of comfortable is realistic for someone starting at 40. It doesn't require becoming rich. It requires being consistent. And once you stop chasing an unrealistic picture of retirement and start aiming for a stable, stress-free one, the whole goal feels a lot more achievable because it is. Step 1. Find out where you actually stand. You can't build toward a goal you can't see clearly. So the very first step isn't opening a savings account or researching investments. It's sitting down, even for 20 minutes, and writing 3 simple things. How much money comes into your house every month? How much goes out? And what you currently owe versus what you currently have saved. Most people avoid this step because it feels uncomfortable, almost like stepping on a scale after avoiding it for months. But you can't fix what you refuse to look at. Once you actually see the numbers, most people feel relief, not despair, because uncertainty is usually scarier than reality. A clear picture, even an imperfect one, is the foundation everything else gets built on. Step 2. Make saving automatic, not optional. Here's a mistake that quietly ruins good intentions. Waiting to save whatever is left over at the end of the month. For almost everyone, there's never anything left over because expenses naturally expand to match whatever income is available. The fix is simple. The moment your paycheck arrives, move a small amount straight into a separate savings or retirement account before you touch the rest. It doesn't need to be a huge amount. It needs to be automatic, so it happens whether you remember or not, whether you're motivated or not. Over time, you stop noticing that money is gone because you never saw it sitting in your regular account in the first place. This one shift, done consistently, matters more than almost any other financial decision you'll make in your 40s. Step 3. Stop the leak before you try to fill the bucket. Imagine trying to fill a bucket that has a small hole in the bottom. You could pour water in all day and barely see the level rise. That's what saving money feels like when you're carrying expensive debt or unnecessary monthly costs. Every dollar you're paying in avoidable interest or forgotten subscriptions is a dollar quietly draining out before it ever has a chance to grow. You don't need a complicated plan to fix this. List what you owe. Pick the smallest balance or the one with the highest cost, and focus extra money there while paying the minimum on everything else. Once it's gone, take that same payment and roll it onto the next one. Each debt you eliminate isn't just relief. It's more water staying in the bucket, ready to actually grow instead of leaking away. Step 4. Let your skills work a second job for you. At 40, you're sitting on something a 22-year-old doesn't have. 2 decades of experience, knowledge, and skills nobody can take away from you. This is one of the most underused advantages of starting later. You don't need to build a business from scratch or work yourself into exhaustion. You need to look at what you already know how to do and ask whether any small piece of it could bring in extra money, even a modest amount. Maybe it's tutoring someone in a subject you know well. Maybe it's fixing things around the house for neighbors who'd happily pay for the help. Maybe it's a skill from your job that translates into freelance work on the side. The goal isn't to work every evening for the rest of your life. It's to create a little extra breathing room now, so more of it can go towards savings and debt instead of stretching an already tight paycheck even thinner. Step 5. Protect what you're building. Saving money is only half the job. The other half is making sure one bad event doesn't wipe out years of progress. This is where an emergency fund comes in. A small amount of money set aside only for genuine surprises, like a car repair or unexpected bill, so you're not forced to reach for a credit card the moment something goes wrong. It doesn't need to start large. Even a few $100s sitting untouched is enough to change how emergencies feel. Without it, One bad month can undo 6 months of careful saving. With it, that same bad month becomes an inconvenience instead of a crisis. Think of it as armor for the plan you're building, not a separate goal competing against it. Step 6. Give yourself permission to adjust the finish line. Here's something almost nobody says clearly enough. Retirement doesn't have to happen at exactly 65, and it doesn't have to be an instant, all-or-nothing switch. If you start at 40 and the math still feels tight later on, working 2 or 3 extra years, or shifting into part-time work in your early 60s instead of stopping completely, isn't a failure. It's a completely normal, reasonable adjustment that dramatically changes how much you need saved. Even a small delay gives your savings more time to grow, gives you fewer retirement years to fund, and often comes with extra income during exactly those years you're pouring more into savings. Flexibility isn't a backup plan. For a lot of people starting later, it's simply part of a smart, realistic plan from day one. Facing the fears that keep people frozen. A lot of people don't fail to plan because they're lazy. They freeze because of fear, and fear rarely responds to logic unless you say it out loud. I'm too old to start. You're not. The only version of too late is the version where you never begin at all. The market might crash right when I need the money. Markets do go up and down. That's simply how they've always worked, but staying out entirely because of fear guarantees your money never grows at all. Steady, consistent saving over many years smooths out the bumps far better than trying to guess the perfect moment. I don't understand any of this. You don't need to become an expert. You need 3 habits. Know your numbers, save automatically, and avoid unnecessary debt. Everything else is refinement, not a requirement to get started. I have kids, a mortgage, and barely anything left over. Almost everyone starting at 40 feels exactly this way. That's precisely why starting small and automatic matters more than starting big. A modest amount saved consistently for 25 years will always outperform a large amount you meant to save someday but never actually did. I don't make enough money to bother saving. Even a small, consistent amount changes your trajectory more than no amount at all. The goal at this stage isn't to save a huge percentage of your income. It's to build a habit and let time do the heavy lifting. As your income grows over the years, that same habit lets you increase the amount without ever having to find extra motivation. The system is already running. 2 paths from the same starting point. Picture 2 people, both 40 years old, both earning a similar income, both feeling like they're behind. One decides the gap is too big to bother closing and keeps living exactly as before, telling themselves they'll deal with it when things settle down. The other sits down for 20 minutes, writes out their numbers, sets up one small automatic transfer, and starts paying down their most expensive debt first. Nothing dramatic happens in month 1 for either of them. Nothing dramatic happens in year 1 either. But 5 years later, one of them has built a real emergency fund, paid off a chunk of debt, and has a steadily growing retirement account, even if it's still modest. The other is exactly where they started, just 5 years closer to retirement with no more of a plan than before. Same starting point, same income, completely different direction, because of one decision made on one ordinary day. Simple milestones to check along the way. You don't need a rigid formula, but a few loose checkpoints help keep you honest with yourself. By your mid-40s, aim to have your debt trending downward and a real emergency fund in place. By your late 40s, your automatic saving should feel like a normal part of life, not a struggle you're still fighting every month. By your early 50s, take a real look at whether your current path lines up with the retirement age you're hoping for, and adjust if it doesn't. By your late 50s, start picturing the actual shape of your retirement, where you'll live, what your monthly costs might look like, whether part-time work fits into the picture, so the transition doesn't arrive as a surprise. These aren't strict deadlines to panic over. They're gentle mile markers to make sure you're still moving, not just hoping. Your action plan. If all of this feels like a lot, don't try to do everything today. Pick one thing and start there. 1. Write down your income, expenses, debt, and savings, even if it's uncomfortable. 2. Set up one automatic transfer into savings, no matter how small. 3. Pick your most expensive debt and start chipping away at it on purpose. 4. Look for one small way your skills or experience could bring an extra income. 5. Start an emergency fund, even if it begins with a very small amount. 6. Stay open to adjusting your retirement timeline instead of treating it as fixed and unchangeable. None of these steps require you to be wealthy, lucky, or financially gifted. They require you to start and to keep going even when progress feels slow and quiet in the beginning. 40 is not the finish line, and it's not too late to matter. It's simply the point where you decide whether the next 25 years happen to you, or whether you take an active hand in shaping them. Comfortable retirement isn't reserved for people who had it all figured out at 25. It's available to anyone willing to start where they actually are today with the years they actually have left. Your retirement story isn't already written. The chapter you're in right now is the one where you decide to begin.